IHS Jane's defence budgets covers 84 of the world's largest defence markets, accounting for approximately 97% of global spending. Total spending is then broken down into functional and service segments and forecast out 5 years. Ryan Jinby, Analytics Coordinator for IHS Aerospace Defence and Security, has created a unique visualization for one of our new analytics modules that enables more effective interrogation of JDB data. Here we have defence spending of all countries covered by JDB, broken out by service spending in the chart view. The data view shows countries in order of size of defence spending. Countries are coloured according to region as indicated by the key on the bottom right. Spending has been scaled logarithmically in the chart view to account for the variance between larger spending countries, such as the USA, and the smaller budgets covered by JDB. Building up the picture regionally, if we start with North America, the dominance of the USA is obvious. Selecting ASPAC adds in a greater spread of countries from China to Cambodia. Then adding in Western Europe, the UK, France and Germany enter the top 10. MENA brings in Saudi Arabia to the top 10 and adds around 6% to the total global defence spending. Latin America adds around 5%. You can see in the data view Brazil is just below Italy in 2009, but over time that picture will change, as we will see later. Adding in Russia and the CIS, you really only see Russia. You have to scroll down the data view table to see smaller markets such as Kazakhstan. Adding in Eastern Europe adds another 3% to the total, Sub-Saharan Africa another 0.7%. Even with the strong growth in markets like Angola in recent years, Sub-Saharan Africa still only accounts for 1% of the global total today. Now we're at the full picture again. If you hover over the regions, either in the key or the bar chart, all countries in that region will light up in the chart view. For instance, if you select North America, the USA and Canada will light up. Similarly, ASPAC will mean all countries in that region light up. I'm now going to run through the years, pointing out trends and focusing on each area of data in turn. If we scroll through time, it is possible to see that rapid growth in the Chinese budget will mean that that budget continues to creep up towards that of the USA, particularly in the army. Currently, the USA accounts for around 36% of global defence spending, following huge cuts since 2010. The continuing decline is really the assumption that overseas contingency operations, or OCO, funding will continue to fall. The core budget is actually expected to begin growing again from FY16 in nominal terms. Another top-level trend to note in the chart view is that the distribution of spending becomes more compact by 2019. If you jump between 2014 and 2019, you can see that countries are more concentrated around the average as time goes on. Running through the time series again, but focusing on the data view table and the regional view bar chart rather than the overall chart view, other trends become apparent. In 2009, we had the old top 5 makeup of the USA, China, the UK, Russia, and then France. North America accounted for 44% of total defence spending, and ASPAC was just a fifth of the world. If we look at the current year, we can see that Russia has jumped up to 3rd place and France has fallen out of the top 5, while India and Saudi Arabia continue to climb up the table. Regionally, North America has fallen to 37% of all spending, and that's caused by the 18% contraction in the US budget over that time period. ASPAC now accounts for just over a quarter of spending, largely driven by Chinese spending growth. The Western Europe and Eastern Europe share is largely the same over time, as budget cuts regionally were absorbed by larger cuts globally, while the shares of other regions has increased. Interestingly, Russia and the CIS share overtakes that of Latin America, as the budget growth in Brazil has stalled. Just to show that again, if you flip between 2009 and 2014, you can see that Russia and Latin America trade positions. Jumping ahead 5 years to 2019, the situation again changes. India now jumps to 4th place, overtaking France and the UK, despite the expectations of mild real terms growth in these countries from 2016-17. Depreciation of the Japanese yen is the major cause of Japan falling down the table. While the regional rankings remain the same, the distance between North America and the rest of the world is distinctly less marked, as ASPAC is slowly getting to account for 1/3 of global defence spending. We can also toggle by function. If we look at the procurement picture, you can see it's largely the same, although there is a more marked difference between the USA and the rest of the world, particularly at the current year. The difference is even more pronounced if we look at RDT and E. Even in 5 years' time, in 2019, we still expect the USA to account for well over half of global defence R&D spending. Another way to view the data is to select GDP and defence from the category drop-down menu. Countries will now be ranked according to the size of their economy. Going back to 2009 and examining this table, if we hover over the USA, you can see that as a percent of GDP, defence spending came to 4.62%, compared to China spending of just over 2%. Scrolling down to the UK, you can see that in 2009, spending came to 2.8% of GDP, and further down at Russia, we have 3.3%. Jumping to the current year, the picture changes slightly. Hovering over the same countries, the USA proportion has fallen to 3.3%. Jumping down to the UK, spending has fallen to just over 2%. Conversely, Russia has increased to 3.4% despite rapid GDP growth. If we focus in on China, it is interesting to note that the proportion of GDP has fallen, despite significant defence budget increases. Indeed, if we go out to 2019, the proportion continues to fall, somewhat dispelling the perception of a regional arms race. To find out how IHS Analytics modules can help you do more with our data, contact your account manager.